Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
The government's prison reform agenda has been called into question after a riot at Bedford Prison last night and the escape of 2 inmates from Pentonville Prison in London today. It took prison officers 6 hours to restore order at the Bedford jail. Our special correspondent Ed Thomas reports.
Tonight, officers search for clues as the manhunt goes on to find 2 prisoners who escaped from HMP Pentonville, missing for more than 12 hours. We've been told the inmates used diamond cutters to get through the windows and place mannequins in their cells to fool officers. Last month, the BBC was given this footage of Pentonville. Families shout to inmates inside the jail. And earlier this year, this video showed items attached to a rope and pulled up over the prison wall. Tonight, the Prison Officers Association blamed the government for staff shortages and increased pressure inside our jails.
Prisons are completely out of control, there's no security, there's no discipline. We need that back urgently, otherwise prisons are just going to get even more in crisis.
But should your officers be doing more?
Our officers are flat out as it is. They're working really hard, they're short on numbers, they really try hard to make sure things are safe.
And last night this was filmed inside HMP Bedford. Prisoners out of their cells and in control on the wings. Last month, inspectors warned this jail was overcrowded, understaffed and unsafe.
It was a bit mental. It was mad for a couple of hours, but then everyone thought they'd proved a point.
This man claims he was part of the riot. Speaking from inside the prison, he asked to remain anonymous. The damage caused, you know, that's criminal, isn't it?
It's a natural reaction. You get treated like a creature. Don't expect to act any differently.
And do you think there are the prison staff numbers there to cope?
This is the whole problem. This is why they're unlocking us 10 at a time, because they haven't got enough staff to deal with the whole wing out. There's a fine line between punishment and downright degradation. We're human beings. It's not Victorian times.
The government has promised thousands of extra staff and reform. But as police investigate a riot and detectives hunt 2 missing inmates, prison officers say there is a crisis now inside our jails. Ed Thomas, BBC News, HMP Pentonville.
Still on the British side of the pond, the prison service has tonight been branded in crisis following first a riot, then an audacious breakout. 2 men have escaped from Pentonville Prison in North London, reportedly using diamond cutters to break through bars and then sheets to get over the outside wall. Police have named them as James Whitlock, who is 31, and Matthew Baker, 28, and described them as dangerous. Their escape follows last night's riot at Bedford Jail by 200 prisoners. So what now for the government's prison reforms? Our senior Home Affairs correspondent Simon Israel has this report.
A torn, worn-out flag and a broken CCTV camera are symbolic of the conditions both inside and out at Pentonville Prison. Today, yet again, the Victorian jail became headline news for what appears to be an audacious escape over the walls, just days after the Justice Secretary outlined plans for a mass recruitment drive of prison officers.
This is not good news for Liz Truss. First a riot, then a prison breakout within 24 hours. A source inside the jail has told me the 2 men used cutting equipment to get through the bars and left mannequins in their beds to give themselves as much time as possible to get away. None of this has been confirmed by the Ministry of Justice.
The overnight breakout wasn't discovered until late this morning. 31-year-old James Whitlock was on remand on charges of stealing from cash machines, and 28-year-old Matthew Baker was awaiting sentence for attempted murder. Prison officers described the service as in crisis.
We've seen what's happened at Bedford, we've now seen what's happened at Pentonville. Last week we also saw what happened at Lewes Prison, and at the weekend we understand there was a prisoner at HMP Swellside that was airlifted out the hospital with stab wounds. This is a crisis, make no mistake about it.
Lack of staff is also being blamed for last night's riot at Bedford Prison. Officers were forced to withdraw as 200 prisoners took over and smashed up 2 of the prison wings. The damage is still being assessed. The prison service has launched an inquiry, and the prisoners themselves have all been transferred to other already overcrowded jails. But the focus has now switched to the Pentonville escape. We asked the Ministry of Justice for more details, including how the prison discovered the inmates were missing and why it took until late morning. The MOJ responded by saying,
"Public protection is our top priority, and we take escapes from custody extremely seriously."
Breakouts are rare, but this couldn't have come at a worse time for a service that is more than just ragged at the edges.